Tutorial on how to create a projection map for the front, for the back, and also for an alpha channel for a character, so that you can get everything that you need in one fell swoop from just doing projection maps. So what we have here, when last we spoke, we had a projection map for the front, and if you go into your outliner, you're going to see the directional lights. Let's grab those. Control G groups them, and I'll just rename that to light. And I'll go to modify center pivot to put the pivot point where the lights are, which is up here. Okay, so that we know not to mess with that. Sentinel 3D cube, let's group that as well. Control G, and let's just type this and call this projections. This keeps things nice and clean. Under projections, you see that we named the shader specific things, and that's a good thing, because we are now going to come in here and say duplicate. Now we've grabbed the shader. Make sure you grab the shader, not the material. Go into general, grab the shader, and go here to duplicate and say without network. Alright? Duplicate shading network. Okay, so you've got everything that you need here, and it's basically created yet another 3D cube. Now, in this case, there's another level of naming this thing, and the way I'd like things to be done is that you rename not just the Sentinel, but I would say in this case it would be body front color, BFC. All right, I'm going to go through this and rename everything so that everyone can see exactly what it is. These shaders. And the reason we're doing this is because we're going to start making duplicates of these, and it's going to get very messy very fast as to what goes where and what's affecting what. So in this case, I'm naming everything BFC. Good. Even here in the placement file, Sentinel BFC placement. There we are. BFC file. Click on this. BFC Sentinel BFC hammer. Click. Use these little arrow keys once you have a full shader, because this actually puts you forward in the dependencies, and this takes you back in the dependencies. And you can say the same thing up here when you press the this key. And you've got, I believe, Shift. It shows you all the dependencies that make up this shader, which is a good thing. You can see very quickly we've got two duplicate systems, one that has shader, material, 3D projection, the file used for that projection, how it's placed, etc. So you've made a copy of this. This is the BFC. This is going to be body back color. And while this thing is selected, go to rotate 180, and let's drag it back like that. There, now that we know that this is the body back projection, right? So we go into here, and we go into the multi-lister, and body front color. In this case, we've got body back color. And you say, how did I know that that was the one I needed to rename? Well, because I'd already renamed this one Sentinel BF. In this case, now I've got Sentinel BBC. The BBC. Alright, good enough. And BBC hammer. Please, hammer, don't hurt him. And BBC, good. BBC, lovely. Okay, now we can start messing with this thing. But first, in Photoshop, let us make something that looks more like a back. And rather than going and spending time during the tutorial of trying to find something on the internet that looks like a Sentinel back, I'm going to kludge one up so that you can quickly tell, yeah, that's his back. I'm going to get rid of all this detail, and I'm going to write the word. Actually, let's get rid of this face detail too. So this is all a bit smooshy. You can kind of tell. There we are. And I'm going to write in red the word back. And that's all I need. So let's do that and save, not save, save as. In this case I'm going to be Sentinel BBC PSD. Alright, so go back in here to your multi-lister. Alright, and we read in the new one we've made, Sentinel BBC PSD. Lovely. This is the smooshy one. Now we're going to get into a bit more complexity in that, in the side view here, we need to make an alpha channel. And this alpha channel is also going to be a projection map. So we're going to do this. We're going to duplicate, or I'm sorry, go in here, click this, and say duplicate shading network. Okay, we have yet another one. What is this one going to be called, you ask? Well, this one is going to be called, this is no longer a color, it is a body side alpha. The nomenclature will become very important because you can see at a glance where all your dependencies are. Body side alpha, body side alpha, and of course body side alpha. I see that I haven't renamed this. I'm going to go in here and do that. This is for the body back color file, and rename this. Okay, I did that. That's good. Body front. There we are. Nice. Placement. Yes. Alright. This placement was not named correctly. That was body back color. And I cannot stress this enough. I know it seems like such tedium right now, but frankly, this is a very confusing operation. It can quickly get away from you, and I just really insist that people work clean so that they know what's going on. This is an important step in understanding the best way to get through to Maya, but it's also it can be complex. Okay, so we got everything that we need. BS, BS, BS. Now we need to rename that too. I have on occasion not given the character's name in here. I just do BSA or BFA or whatever, so that you can see here at the shader level what everything is. And since you've only got one character in the Maya file, you can do it that way. I'm just doing this so that everyone understands very clearly and cleanly how to work. Alright, so we have duplicated this, and the body side alpha cube now needs to be moved at 90, and half of z would be, that's supposed to be -4, wouldn't it? But I would prefer to do a side view and match it up by hand. We can press X to snap it to the grid, and then press scale to scale it down. In fact, we can move it there off the grid until it matches with just a little bit of forgiveness room. There we are. Okay, going into wireframe and framing this as tall as possible. Go in there and take a screenshot. Go back into Maya. I'm sorry, go into Adobe Photoshop. There we go, and do the operation we did in the previous tutorial where we cut this out as an alpha channel. And I will clean this up further at this point by being very exacting. And this step is also very crucial because you got to make sure that what you paint on matches the projection perfectly. Otherwise, you're going to get this maddening white line around things, and you just don't need that when you're spending this amount of time on it. So, at this point, get rid of this bogus background. No. And let's just bring in a new layer. There. And what I'm going to do in this layer is I'm going to fill everything like that and go to about 57%, and then cut a nice line right down the center of his body. Now you can do this a number of ways. You can do this in a way that you're just doing it by hand with a paintbrush, etc., What I think you need to get, however, is you need to get a nice blurry line. So under filter, I usually go up here to blur and go to Gaussian blur. And it gives us a nice blurry line because you don't want these two texture maps to have a sudden drop off where one just stops working, the other one starts. It's a pretty nasty delineation. Okay, there we are. Blurry-ish. Not exactly too blurry. And we can come in here and blur this up even more. Anyhow, let's do this. Save as. And let's go to Sentinel body side alpha. Booyah. Go back into Maya. Alright, here we go. Body side alpha. And do it right from here. Body side alpha. There we are. Okay, so let's see what this guy looks like in renders when we put these three different textures one at a time onto the character. When we do the body front alpha, he renders just fine. Let's get a little closer there. There we are, nice render. When we do the back, there we are, there's back, you can see that. It's also, of course, on the front. I'm just letting you know that we have different placements here. And when we do it for the alpha, guess what? He's got this white line down the middle of him. Right? Okay. How do we combine these? Well, herein lies the trick. And this is the crux of the tutorial. You're going to create something. In fact, I'm going to take my own advice and make sure that I save the Sentinel at this point. Sentinel 3. Always is a Maya ASCII. You come up here to create, and you create something called, under the materials, layered shader. It's a very complex thing. It can be sort of dizzying. Under layered shader, for some reason in Maya, I think it's a bug right now in 7.0.1, it doesn't show you the newest things you create for shaders, but it always will show you the latest material. So in this case, I come into material, and I click on the character, and I go up here to edit and assign. Okay, create a shader group. Now I go back. There it is. Okay, there we are. Assign. Open this up. What we're going to do is we're going to layer these things on top of each other. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to, on the back projection, let's see, this is the body back material. Okay. Notice in this shader you've got a transparency value. What we're going to do is we're going to with the back color selected, don't left click on it like I'm doing, because it changes. See this here? It changes what you're dealing with. But with the middle mouse button, grab the body side alpha. Okay, I'm clicking down my middle mouse button and I'm dragging it into the value of the transparency for the color. Alright? Oops. That's going to ask for some silliness. Okay, let's do it this way. Go to materials. Grab the body side alpha. Drag it into the body back color. There, it just snaps in. And you can see that this is now a transparency value that affects the color. So let's prove it by going into here and assigning this shader. There we are. Well, look at that. Very strange.